Welcome to Best Wellness Interviews, where successful people share their attitudes on wellness and some key strategies that they use for their health and well-being. I'm Kristine Best, wellness strategist, and I'm your host. Now today my guest is Mark S. Goullet. Welcome to my show, Mark.
Oh, thank you very much, Kristine, and for your invitation as well.
No worries. I'm very happy to have you on the show because you've got an awesome story. And you know what? I'd love you to introduce yourself, who you are and what you do.
Oh, thank you. I'm Marcus Goullet. Nickname's Watermark, which is an interesting nickname for what I do now. For most of my life, I've worked in the outdoor areas of conservation land management, very hot, arid regions and environments. And I did all the right things. I hydrated. I'd always take my bottled water with me. In some of those environments, in regional areas, I actually had a lot of water, and I'd drink it all. I'd cover my skin, all the zinc and sunblocks and all the rest of it. And it wasn't until I started having all sorts of eruptions of skin cancers, sunspots, and all that. I started getting unwell, and that really did change my life at that point. So now I am educating other people. I am sharing my story today with you, Kristine, and your viewers, and hopefully get a message out to them that there is hope. And that hope has kept me alive at least 5 years beyond my use by expiry date. So,
So what I would like to know is a little more about how you discovered these skin cancers. What happened? Like how much time had elapsed after you did that work? Were you still doing that work, or had you changed your job?
yeah, I was still doing that work, Kristine.
Yep.
I had some interesting, scratchy, itchy spots coming up at about, would have been around 2014. I had some minor surgery to remove one or two of them. And then in, I forget which year it was, but I had a very strange spot come up on the side of my temple here. And oh my goodness, within 2 weeks, it had grown to about the size of my thumb. And I just finished a Department of Defense project. I was contracting for them, and I came home. I went to a skin clinic, and they had a look at it, and they went, "Ooh, that is not looking good." And so he said, "Well, you could do a lot of surgery and stuff." I said, "Well, look, I just want it gone. I want it gone as quickly as possible. This thing's, this started out as just an itchy spot, and now it's the size of my thumb." I mean, it was right there on the side of my face, for goodness sake. And your face is an expression of who you are. You look in the mirror.
Yes. Yeah, self-conscious about it.
Oh, very much so. Anyway, he used the nitrogen to freeze it. And I think he did it about 20 or 30 times that day. And crikey, no amount of anesthetic, stop that freeze, heat burn type thing that you get when it gets that cold into your bone. But that dropped off at the end of the day. And it had been frozen that many times. But then it took a couple of weeks to heal.
Yeah.
Now, ever since then, I've been going back to that clinic. And so for 5 years, or for 3 years, for 3 years, I was going back every 3 months. And my skin was erupting with all sorts of sunspots and skin cancers. And it was costing me, anywhere. This is above and beyond Medicare and healthcare insurance. It was costing me a fortune, and all these extra biopsies and time off work. I had to lose one project, which cost me a lot of money, losing that project while I was recovering. And by 2018, I was sitting there and with the specialist, I'll never forget it, Dr. Peter Sutherland. And I said to him, "How long is this going to go on for? It's costing me a lot of money every year. And every 3 months, you'd have to budget for it." in case there was extra cost. And, you can go along to a skin clinic and get things, chipped out of you for almost nothing, just a small Medicare price or whatever. But when you have to have a lot of surgery every 3 months, it's a different kettle of fish.
So what kind of figure are we talking about here? Just a ballpark figure?
I think the lowest was about 6 or 7 grand, and the highest was in a year was about 12 to 15 or something.
So over those 4 years,
That's a lot of money.
how much do you reckon you spent?
I actually haven't added that full price up, because if I got to go back and revisit that and pardon me, and go back through those whole memories and what it cost, I know I lost. Look, if we just looked at one work project, I had staff to employ there as well. They also couldn't do the project because I wasn't able to manage it as the project manager, and they lost money as well. But I probably lost 100K just from one big project, and
plus the costs on top of that of
yeah,
your operations and so on.
yeah. And I tell you what, if you don't have those funds in the bank and you take the cheaper option of just doing this, this, and this, and you know what, it's all good. Think twice.
Yeah. So it was really disruptive to your life having these sunspots and skin cancers.
Yeah.
And why did you have them surgically removed?
I believed it was the best option at that time.
Right. So what sort of cancers were they?
Melanoma, had a beauty up here, and they said it was a pre-bone cancer melanoma, if that can be a thing. I'm not sure.
Yeah, right.
And
so it had the potential to get into your bones, is what they meant.
yeah, actually, the biopsy result came back that it was unclear, and that biopsy result included some bone. And the pathology report stated that the cancer had gone down into the hair follicle, right down into the RNA coil or whatever it is, into the bone.
Wow.
And because there was a fair bit of bone removed, and it became and the result was unclear, it meant there was still some in that bone. And if it ever continued and found its way into my meninges, well, you're buggered.
Yes.
And so that was 2018, that result. And Peter told me that when I asked him, I said, look, how much longer am I going to keep putting up with this? This has been going on for years now.
So they cut into your skull, is what you're saying. They took bone out of your skull.
Yeah, I've got a little dent up there. And a hell of a scar too, by the way. Got a few scars all over me now from those sort of surgeries.
Well, that would have been a pretty scary experience, I would imagine. How did you feel at the time?
Look, I was feeling okay. The couple of other biopsy results that came back that he spoke to me about that day were clear underneath. So the only one that wasn't was this one up here. And I just said to him, I said, well, how much longer am I going to keep putting up with this? And he said, oh, about 2 years. And I went, oh, thank goodness. Oh,
only 2 years.
Yeah, only 2 years. Only 2 years. Thank goodness. And he goes, what are you so happy about? Or words to that effect.
Yeah.
And I said, well, it's only going to be 2 years. He goes, yeah, you need to get your affairs in order.
Oh, right. That was a bit of a clanger.
My knees were so weak.
Yeah.
I thought he was giving me hope.
Yeah.
And I've got a wonderful photo I took of him and I that day, because prior to asking him that question, he told me that my visit that day, he got a notification on his computer saying that my visit that day tipped him over the scales for winning a free trip for 2 weeks to the Maldives, which was a pharmaceutical company's
okay. Yep.
gift for all the scripts and everything he writes.
Mm-hmm.
And then he sent me photos from the Maldives, and there's like dozens and dozens of other specialists over there, and they're having a great time.
Yep.
And so, and then I asked him that question, which I just spoke about. with his answer, and so eventually I got home and I shut down. That was December 2018. I shut down for weeks, and I started doing a little bit of research because that's what I like doing, having worked for James Cook University and being exposed through their veterinary science and microbiology and biomed programs, and also helping quite a few PhD students through their studies, which is something I've done in the past, and they've all succeeded, by the way. So I'm really proud of the work I did with them. I did some research in that, and I really couldn't find an answer to this. However, because a friend of mine in that December rang up, telling me that he's also been diagnosed with a serious health issue and that his mum was as well, and a friend of ours suggested a particular type of reduced water that in the scientific journals express very positive results. And I went, oh, he said, I need you to look it up. Could you find as much as you can on this, 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 and this? And I went, sure. Well, that gave me hope. Read some serious documents there, and I went, wow, why haven't I heard of this before? In fact, why haven't any of us heard of this before?
Yeah, right.
And so now I publish the most.
So these were academic papers.
Yeah. I logged into my account on PubMed, and NIH and a couple of other, journal sites.
Yep.
Food and Science, Elsevier and whatnot. And so really I couldn't believe what I was reading, that the simplicity of electrolyzed reduced water could be the potential or have the potential to boost the immune system's ability to do its job. Basically, that's what it does. And I just couldn't understand it. I had to read that science. So I took about 6 weeks. And I rang him up and I said, look, apparently it's going to be helpful. I can't confirm 100%. And I certainly wouldn't say it's a cure, but geez, I've read one article that it says in the animal trials, which were 100 dog trials for leukemia and prostate, it was 100% successful.
Wow.
100%.
Yeah.
Right. In fact, that journal that paper published in that journal, it says we had a cure rate of 100%.
Yep. That's pretty awesome, isn't it? That's pretty amazing.
Well, what's amazing is I continued that, and just recently, my own friend and doctor who teaches at University of Queensland, we had a conversation about a year ago, and I was over breakfast, and his prostate cancer had got to the point where they, and this is a bombshell on me, where they were going to remove his entire prostate the following week, and then they couldn't because they found that he had developed a myocarditis heart condition. And
A what, sorry?
Myocarditis.
Right.
So he developed this heart condition. They were fearing he would die on the operating table, so they couldn't do surgery on him.
Okay.
And I just said, mate, you got to drink that water and you got to get it stuck into you. So he's been going along to his specialist every 3 months over the last year and a bit now. And his PSA levels came down. Mind you, the size of his prostate was like this big, when it should be like, about that.
Yep.
And his prostate size has reduced and his PSA levels came down. I think he said it was 34 or 64, and they've come down to 0.001. And his prostate is now back to normal size and
awesome.
Sign of any cancer.
Okay, so now I want to ask you in terms of what you did for yourself, how that affected you. So what did you do?
Well, that sort of bombshell really slowed me down. That had me just, vegging out at home, not, I shut down. I was not talking to people. I didn't want to tell them that I was terminally ill, that I only had up to 2 years left. I had to think about getting my will sorted and everything out, or updated at least, or do a codicil to my will. And I was thinking of I was thinking of everyone other than myself, really. I was in such a state of disrepair. I just thought, well, I have one son down in South Australia. He doesn't spend that time with me that he might. So we went and spent time together after that. That was good. And yeah, I was just thinking of everything I was going to miss. And I thought, well, whatever will be, will be. But that research gave me hope.
Mm.
So what I did with that research was I found another document that was published out of a Bulgarian University of Moscow in Bulgaria. And it was about this particular company's product, a water device that makes the electrolyzed reduced water plus other waters. And I went, oh, okay, this will be interesting. And they actually bought this company's product and they took it all around Europe. And they tested all the different waters coming through your normal tap water, and they tested all the fountains in the cities and town squares and all that. And they tested the melt water and naughty waters, all that sort of thing.
Mm.
But then they also ran the water through this company's product.
Yeah.
And they theorized that it may be used as a health beneficial water.
Mm.
Then they went further with their testing, and they actually proved that their test results stipulate this water can be used as a prophylaxis treatment for cancer.
Mm.
Now, that was published recently in 2016.
Yeah, right.
Wow. Now, reading that, I went, okay, I can't believe it. There's, the universe brings things to us.
Yeah.
And sometimes we can see
But
it.
only when you're open to them.
Well, yeah. And when it comes just once, you go, oh, yeah. When it comes twice, you go,
Yeah,
oh.
I'm taking notice now.
Well, when it slaps you in the back of the head on the third occasion, says,
Well,
you fool, here's the proof.
but it's also very relevant to you at this point in time, right?
Very much so. I'm still alive.
Exactly. And
So,
how many years later? We're talking about 2025 now.
yeah, we are.
Right? And so he was telling you by 2020 you were going to be kaput.
I'm in my
Proof that this works, right?
I know, right? And so those of your guests on your podcast listening to this, guys, there is hope. I've lived 5 years past my potential expiry date, and I found I was told about the water and to do the research for my friend. I did that research, and I continued researching that, by the way, and then I found the document I just spoke about. It's called the Mathematical Model of Kangen Water.
Yep.
Wow, and that's published, and I went, aha. So I was told about the water.
Yep.
I read about the water.
Mm.
Then I found the company that actually makes the product to produce the water.
Yep.
And I went, wow, there's something in that. And that was the last one, the big slap on the head.
Mm.
So then I asked another question. And I think it's important for everyone listening here also to ask this other question. Will it work?
Yeah.
There's literally right now on PubMed about 100,000 peer-reviewed articles on nearly every health topic related to electrolyzed reduced water. And you can type in, if you open up Google, type into Google Scholar and search. And when you find the Google Scholar link, search that link, open it up, and then do a search on electrolyzed reduced water. The acronym is ERW, and health benefits. It'll be right there in front of you. And if you're using a computer, it'll tell you how many articles there are published. And it will depend, though, on whether you use an S or a Z in electrolyzed.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So because of American spelling.
I thought the search engine used either or, that it didn't matter what you put in, it would search both.
Yeah, well, someone else told me that, and I had a look myself. So I did the search myself using different spelling, and they are correct. And so when you find the article "Advanced Research of the Health Benefits of Reduced Water," that is a review article dating back to 1931 in its review,
Wow.
where the Japanese started working on it.
Mm.
And, you know, they introduced it into agriculture in 1954. And remember, Japan, they had 2 atomic bombs, so you couldn't eat or touch
Yeah.
this or anything for a long time. And so they used the electrolyzed reduced water to improve the quality of the soil, the bacterium count, the quality of the
Right.
bacterium,
Okay.
to be able to reproduce.
So that's why they really introduced this machine and
Yep.
this
Yeah,
water concept.
yeah.
Wow.
So I've published that article on my website as well, and reading that, they, you know, because it's a review article of other people's research, and of course, all the receipts are there, all the references and everything are there, and so I started researching those researchers, and I found this manufacturer of these products making electrolyzed reduced water. They had medical advisors, the top medical advisors in the world. And one of them, in his late 70s, has just passed away. Unfortunately for him, it seems he passed away from some sort of reaction to a medical intervention of some sort. And but he was the number one endocrinologist in the world. He taught at Beth Israel Institute in New York and also in the Japanese hospitals. He advised the manufacturer, and I spoke to him. He said, it's the best thing you can do. Now, he, at the time when I spoke to him, had treated over 400,000 cancer patients. He never ever lost one patient.
Mm.
Not one person died. And I asked him, I said, what do you put that down to? He said, well, I'm not going to put it down to my own experience as a surgeon. I'm putting it down to electrolyzed reduced water.
Wow.
It simply works.
So he knew.
Yep.
And this has been kept secret, really.
Well, he's tried not to keep himself secret. He wrote several books. The first one's called The Enzyme Factor.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it's not in the mainstream.
That's right. Which is why I asked myself when I was doing my research, how come I've never heard of this?
Exactly.
Why have I never heard of this? Right?
Yeah.
We can get into conspiracies, but
Yeah.
but when
But this sort of stuff should come out. You know, people are left in the dark when this stuff should be made public and common knowledge. Should be taught in schools. It should be taught in universities, and it's not.
so I discovered what you just talked about then. The information isn't out there. I also researched the manufacturer, and they actually opened their very first office here in Australia. It's 15 years ago this year. So 2010, they came to Australia. In the research review article that I was talking about, the advanced research of electrolyzed reduced water for health benefits of it, right? In that research, the company introduced, well, the Japanese introduced this whole electrolyzed water system technology into their hospitals in 1960. And then they discovered how beneficial it was for all gut issues, including GERD, and then all topical skin issues, including skin cancers and gangrene. Wow. And Staphylococcus aureus causing necrotizing fasciitis.
Yep.
Which, if you get that.
Yes, that's usually pretty dangerous.
I had 2 friends pass away just over a year ago. Husband and wife. He ended up with Staphylococcus aureus on his arm. It all came up in those little pimples one night, and he's irritated and he's scratching during the night. Unfortunately, he also spread that onto his bed linen and to his wife.
Okay.
Now, in the morning, he was really sick and rushed to hospital. where they amputated his arm,
Oh, yeah, that's pretty drastic.
died of a blood clot. The family were notified, and the son went over to visit mum the next morning to let her know, and she was very unwell. So he rushed her to hospital, where they amputated her other arm.
Oh,
Because they were laying in bed side by side, see?
yeah, right.
And she passed away from a blood clot.
Oh, my goodness.
Now, I've known that family since I was right.
That's kind of negligent. You would think they would learn from the first one.
That's actually the Medical Association's go-to practice. And I do have a video on that I'm happy to share with anyone that would like to see it. Just be mindful, there are some very graphic images in there. But you don't have to just get it from, like, have that condition just from catching it off someone or that. I did some research on it, and, you could be a healthy mother, a healthy woman, pregnant, go to hospital, have your baby, and then you wake up from surgery with no limbs.
Oh.
Yeah, it's that serious.
Yeah.
No, just imagine no arms to cradle your newborn baby.
No, that would be pretty devastating.
Yeah.
So you're saying that this water can actually cure that condition?
I'm not allowed to say that in Australia.
No, I realise that. Yeah. But it can certainly
Research says that.
prove. Yeah, well, there you go. So the research supports it.
That's right. And
now I want to go back to where the doctors told you, or the doctor told you that you only had 2 years to live. Now, doctors tell people things like this, right? And people believe what the doctor has said. And then, of course, that starts their dying straight away. They give up.
Yep.
Now, that to me is sad, because it's not always correct. A doctor told my mother that she had cancer in the colon.
Yep.
And I said to my mother, well, hang on a sec, I don't necessarily believe that. And here, actually, they did like a colon, what do they call it, like exploratory, where they go and cut out polyps and stuff like that. Anyway, in the end, he was actually convinced that she had a cancer in her colon. And I said, Mum, I'm coming with you. So we went to his rooms, and he had her results up on the screen, and he looked at her, he looked at the screen, he looked back at her, and he goes, something's changed from then till now. You don't have cancer. It was just a large polyp. So he'd made a mistake in how he read those results. And I mean, that's human error. But to tell my mother she had this condition, to her, at her age, she was late 70s, that could have been enough to tip her over the edge and just give up, because she didn't want to have to go through all that stuff, And so I think it's really worth people having a second and third opinion, because one doctor's not necessarily correct.
And I would reinforce what you're saying there. My trust in my specialist was there. I had allowed that trust to develop. I had, over such a long period of time, different conversations, obviously built a relationship with that specialist. And I also qualified him along the way. What have you done? How have you educated yourself? Are you up to date with the literature and all that sort of thing? And, he shared with me different books and things that he was reading, different journals, different publications to journals that he subscribes to, for all that education that he's doing. So I felt he was pretty much on the money. 2 years was beautiful for me. Yes, it was a prognosis that could occur. Best to get my affairs in order. Yes, I had a horrible several weeks.
Yeah, a period of coming to terms with this and dealing with how you feel about it and what can you do about it. And so yeah, I can imagine that period of time. It takes time to find the guts to face that.
Yeah, so I strengthened up. I put my big boy's breeches on and pulled my socks up, and and I considered what I was going to do for the next up to 2 years. I considered my end of life period, where I'd be, and whether I wanted to be in hospital, whether I wanted to be at home, or just take a drive out and spend time with friends, and if I passed away, I passed away. Um, so I wondered what that would look like, but I never ever had a clear image of what that end of life period would look like for me. And so I didn't want to succumb to the negative thoughts in my mind,
Yeah, exactly. Mm.
which is very, very important.
Yes.
Our mindset and perspective on life, the universe, and everything is all about how we live our life today.
Well, let's face it, the human body, God made it to heal itself.
Yeah.
It's made that way, provided you give it the right circumstances. And most people don't give their bodies the right circumstances.
And Kristine, that's where quality nutrition is
Yes.
so important. And
And it's not just water, there are a number of factors that you need to consider. But yes, water is obviously a very
well,
essential ingredient because our bodies are mostly water. Even our bones have water content. People don't realize this.
this,
Water is life.
and if water is a part of our nutritional diet, then wouldn't the right type of water be the most beneficial? And when I
Well, of
started,
course. Yes.
yeah, when I started looking into that, and remember, this is 2018 and the first couple of weeks of January 2019,
Mm.
and I'm reading all this research. I'm finding hope. I've come across the document, the literature, mathematical model of Kangen water. I then researched the company, and then I Google searched, their reviews, and oh my goodness, I was gobsmacked. At the beginning, reading the research, the science, and then researching the researchers that did their studies and published them, peer
Mm.
reviewed, and then also reviewed the reviewers.
Yes.
It's 100%. It's 100%. But then you go to the internet,
Mm.
and you start looking at the company or the water reviews, what people say. I've got to say, it didn't match.
Right.
It really didn't match. I've never seen so much negativity about such a 100% positive product in all my life.
Mm.
Um, you know, all I could think of was, especially in the Western world, officials did not want this technology coming into our Western countries where big corporations control everything
Yes. I know which ones you mean.
in the health industry.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
That was my only conclusion, because I've never read so much BS in
Yeah.
all my life, and when you try and match that BS
Mm.
to the scientific BS, it doesn't add up.
No, that's right.
It doesn't match. It won't match.
No.
And so I had to dismiss that negativity. I was already in a negative place
Of
myself.
course. You're trying to deal with this life-threatening thing. Yes.
Yeah, and then you've got this negativity out there about this very positive product that seems to work in all these situations.
Mm.
And so I had to research some more researchers, and that's why I spoke to this Dr. Hiromi Shinya.
Mm-hmm.
He, being a medical advisor for the manufacturer and teaching oncology, and he also is the inventor of, you mentioned your mother and the colon, potential colon cancer. Well, those medical procedures that she undertook, like many of us have had, they were this Dr. Hiromi Shinya's own invention. He invented the colonoscopy. He invented the polypectomy.
Okay.
Yeah. And in his book, The Enzyme Factor, on page 159, and boy, I've read this book a couple of times. I know where to go straight away.
Yeah.
He talks about reduced water. Now, it's not a new water. This is also very much pointed out in the science. It can still be found in many places in Europe, Japan, Mexico, and one spring here in Australia that is full of radiation now from nuclear testing in Central Australia.
Right.
So you're not allowed near it. However, there is the water that is hydrogen rich, right, still exists.
Right.
In
nature. In nature,
yeah.
That's right, yep.
And so it is formed under pressure, collision, vortexing. This is why humans and animals and whatnot love the bottom of a waterfall. It's full of hydrogen.
Yeah. And
the waters are usually pristine, green, aqua, blue color. And
I've been in Vanuatu and places where they have exactly that.
Yeah, you go to Vanuatu to a Fate Island, and you have the water at the Cascades coming down.
It's beautiful. It's absolutely crystal clear. Yeah.
So I went on a hell of a water journey, and say hell because that's how I felt at the time. I was going through hell personally with my own afflictions. Yet it was a journey to discover what this reduced water that I'm drinking is all about. It's the original water that the Creator made for us. It's what all our drinking water was. It was antioxidant, full, as in molecular hydrogen. That's the most powerful antioxidant we know of. And it was rich and abundant in all sorts of minerals and nutrients and electrolytes. And so people lived healthy, and they lived for a hell of a long time. And in fact, in Japan, because this product has been available in Japan for 50 years as a domestic product, but many more years before that as a health beneficial product in their hospitals and medical centers.
And agriculture, as you said.
There's centenarians over there. They lived to their 100s and 20s and 40s and 50s, for goodness sake. And I've sat down with one of them who was a professor. And I believe he was 100 plus something, in fact, one of your connections and I were in Japan together, and we were having a conversation with him. Well, I had most of the conversation with him because he was teaching the important elements of climate change and water.
So that's what concerns me, what mankind is doing to our water courses and sources. And that bothers me because they're tampering with stuff that is the seat of life on this planet. And they need to be very careful what they're doing.
Absolutely. Look, I put a really good paragraph up on my webpage just to do with that part of the conversation. Now, remember, this happened in 2018 and 2019, and I recommended to my friend that he buy the product. So he bought several products for himself and his mother. I did that water research, and I spoke to many of the medical people involved, and they had only the kindest things to say. In fact, they couldn't say anything negative about the water or the devices that this company makes. And they also promoted the, in Japan, they have something called onsen law. And I think that was written in...
I've heard of that.
Yeah, onsen law. I think it came out in 1948 or thereabouts. If any one of your viewers listening to this have been to Japan, travelled up into the mountains and gone to the onsen hot springs.
Oh, that's where I've heard it, because I've been to Japan. Yeah, that's where.
Yeah. Well, there you go. And
that's where I heard it. Yep. Okay.
yeah, well, they're written into law because of those particular minerals having beneficial effects for the body, including gastrointestinal positive effects, right? And so the whole process of detoxing the body, and you know about redox and detox.
Yep, I do.
And so, you know, the Japanese were always bathing in these hot springs.
I went into one of their bathing establishments. It was an awesome experience with all these different pools with different temperatures and water that came from the mountains. And it was icy cold, and then there was hot ones and in between ones.
Yeah.
And others that actually had a little electric current running through it. It was very interesting going into this hot spring. Yeah, it was very, very refreshing. So I think there is, you know, and if you bathe in the sea, or if you have a swim in a really cold stream, you know, freshwater stream, there is something very refreshing about it. And it's probably not just the water itself, it's like what's in the water or what it's made of, and its naturalness, if you get what I mean.
I do. What nature intended, the word Kangen, which is very appropriate for this company's patented system. The word Kangen in Japanese means return to original or return to origin.
Now that makes total sense.
Yeah. And so
Yep.
it was only that day that I read that article.
Yeah.
I went, now that makes total sense.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And so it's simply and that electrical charge that you noticed in the water. All of our normal water supplies are positive charged, and positive charge brings molecules together in a cluster. It's like getting a magnet and putting it in a bin of magnetic filings. You can't even find the magnet anymore. Everything else is all stuck around it.
Yep.
And depending on the power of the magnet, of course, will depend on how much volume of stuff is stuck to it.
That'll attract. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have other magnets that are negative charge and detract.
Drive it away. That's right.
Right?
Yep.
And so our water is no different because it comes through the earth, right? It can have a positive or negative charge.
Right.
And in the right environments, the original environments, it's negative charged. Right. You know, I've been to Zermatt in Switzerland, on the Italian border. I've been to the Matterhorn, the water coming down, the big water channel in the melt time. It's a thick, milky colour. It was like that cloudy water I showed you before when I poured mine out of my product. And the reason for it looking like milk is all the hydrogen being released into the water during the melt. And so there's a lot of research out there on this. In Pakistan, there's a place called the Hunza region.
Yeah.
And
I know about the Hunzas.
Yeah, well, they don't have hospitals there, for goodness sake. They live in
100 up to 120. Yep.
Yeah, or better. The only reason they die is they fall off a cliff or something. They might be getting a bit wobbly on their knees in the freezing temperatures and then have a slip and a fall. Well,
Yeah.
but health-wise, they're healthy people into their hundreds of years.
Yeah, the Hunzas and Okinawans in Japan are well known for their longevity.
And that is where I sat down with this fellow in Okinawa and had many conversations with Okinawans, and it was really interesting being over there in Japan last year, doing some more research, of course, speaking to more people, and meeting the owner of this manufacturing company, celebrating their 50th year. Producing the domestic products for the world. And now got 45 branches in 23 or 20, 23 countries, 45 branches.
Yeah.
But here in Australia, only 15 years this coming year. So they'll be having some celebrations for that. Importantly for your viewers, there is hope, because if we go back to that January period, my mate's, he bought the products and his arrived, I think, the 30th or 31st of January. And so he rang me up and said, "Oh, my product's here, come on up." I said, "Bugger, mine hasn't turned up yet." So I went up to his place. He lives up the coast, sunny coast. And we set his up. We unboxed it, set it up. And we had 2 beers. And we drank all this water and we got pissed. How? 2 beers. It was hot. It was summertime, of course.
Yeah.
How do we get pissed on 2 beers? Like, that's never happened. And so I had to go back to the research on that. This water being negative charged, getting back to that electrical charge you felt in hot springs. It's negative charged, and the water clusters are reduced down to 4 to 7 in a cluster, not 15 to 250.
Oh, okay, right.
Right, now this is really important. And I thought, wow, okay, and they're negative charge, not positive charge. And the water molecules in the research are in a hexagonal shape. And that's well documented in the research. It's just like honeycomb, like snowflakes. And if you look at positive charged water, it's in pentagonal shapes, 5-sided.
Okay.
Right? Hexagonal can penetrate cells. 5-sided cannot.
Okay.
Now that's important.
Yeah.
Because we're never going
to need water.
Yeah, we're never going to be able to hydrate our cells on the cell level with pentagonal molecules. Plus,
well, that also helps the flow of nutrients in and the flow of waste products out of the cell.
Correct. Now, well, you get it. You get it.
Of course I get it.
And I hope your viewers are enjoying this part of the conversation, because Kristine is correct here. And so another doctor, Dr. Peter Agre, A-G-R-E, I think it is. If you look up Dr. Peter Agre, aquaporin, so aqua, A-Q-U-A, P-O-R-I-N. There's no U in the porin. He and his team got a Nobel Prize for their discovery back in 2004, I think it was. And when I discovered that research, well, that just cemented the full foundation for what I was about to do following January 2019. I had to educate people with this. I had to prove to myself initially this worked, right? And so
that flow of water in and out of the cell and flowing out with the waste products, that is also important to note that omega-3s and the product of Zinzino actually helps the cell to be have a softer outer covering to allow that flow. And if you have an imbalance in omega-3 and omega-6 oils, the cell actually becomes more rigid and less open to flow. So water alone doesn't necessarily affect that cell. There are other nutrients in your diet that will affect the cellular health.
So where you're going with that is really, really important for your viewers to know about, and especially to do with diabetes. That outer covering we're speaking of is the protective lining of every cell in our body.
That's right. Yep.
It's a gel fatty lining of different healthy oils and fats in our body, right. Protein, fats, and that.
And our diets today do not have the essential fatty acids.
Yeah.
And that's why people are getting so unwell, because there is a direct link between that and chronic disease, such as diabetes, heart problems, cancer. They're all preventable.
And so with you mentioned diabetes there. Well, with all those incorrect fats and oils, that adds a horrible thick fatty layer around every cell.
Yep.
And
And
insulin,
it becomes impervious to the water.
yeah, it's impervious to everything, because even insulin can't get through. If insulin is the key that unlocks the lock to the cell to be improved, where everything could get in, it can't do that because of this additional thickening of the protective layer with the incorrect oils and fats. And this was really important with regards to Dr. Peter Agree's research and discovery. What they discovered was a protein RNA coil that is in every cell, and that coil or protein is where the nutrients, the water, all the minerals and everything is the channel to get into the cell. And if that channel is blocked, it's in there, so nothing will get in. But
no nutrients, no nothing.
Yeah,
that's right.
So this is really key now. We got to improve the quality of the cell layer, protective layer, right? Otherwise, we can take all the nutrients and water. I'm drinking it as we like, and nothing beneficial is going to occur. We're still going to be dehydrated. We're still going to be lacking energy. We're still going to be diabetic. We're still going to be whatever.
And the body will still break down because the cells are not working as they should.
Yeah. So him and his team discovered this protein coil, RNA coil, and they got the naming rights for it, called the aquaporin. And they measured that aquaporin. It can only accept up to 7 molecules. Now that's really key to this. Tap water, bottled water, 15 to 220 or 250, right? It's not going to get into the cells. It's not going to hydrate the cells. Hydrogen-rich electrolyzed reduced water is in water clusters of 4 to 6. Guess what? There's room for an additional molecule at a time. So supplementation added to the water gets in. The water gets in, right? And then water, H2O, but when you've got H2O, you've got 3 molecules, but then you add a couple of extra hydrogen to it and a couple of extra oxygen, right? You're now creating the correct mix for the mitochondrial engines to fire up in the Krebs cycle, producing energy, ATP.
Yeah, for viewers that don't understand what mitochondria are, they're the little workhouses that produce the energy in the cell.
Yeah, they are, and they do a great job when they have the right
environment.
Yeah,
and that's water and the rest of your nutrition.
So think of it like the engine in your car. You need the right oil and coolant, right?
That's right. Yeah.
For it to operate correctly and efficiently. Well, here we're now talking about giving our engines of our cells the right ingredients to perform better.
That's right. Yep.
And so I read that research and I went, oh my goodness, this is now cemented a whole new purpose in my life, right? Remember, my purpose of life that I had was coming to an end. And
you had a different job then.
That's right.
And so this has changed the course of your life.
Yeah, absolutely, because I'm still alive and living.
Yes.
So, I chose to be a distributor of this manufacturer from Japan when I purchased my product. And I bought a couple of products. I bought the K8 device sitting on my kitchen bench. And I also bought their Onsen Spa product.
Right.
Because you can simply detox very, very well. You can have flotation in that water without adding any extra salts and stuff. That particular device is portable, just like my kitchen K8. They're both portable. I take them when I travel. And, the water is blue out of that Onsen Spa device. It's called an Anespa DX. And the water is nice and blue. I've put a couple of posts up on LinkedIn and Facebook about it. And the whole relaxation method and detox I've spoken about. It's just absolutely beautiful. You've got right minerals. The water is pure. Its filtration system is absolutely spot on, and it's just great. And of course, using Onsen Law, where the right minerals in Onsen Law have to be provided, the company does that. They have the mineral rights. They produced a device that they can ship all around the world. You don't have to travel to Japan now to have an onsen spring in your own home. You can do it in your own spa in your backyard, or you can do it in your bathtub.
Right. So you use these products for
Yep,
your health and well-being every day,
every day.
and you're still here to tell the story when you should have been gone 4 and a bit years ago.
So yeah, that changed. I had a
And you
few.
look well. I mean, you look well. You sound well. You've got energy. Like obviously something's working for you.
Kristine, I'm bubbling over with passion about having the opportunity to live more than 2 years.
Mm.
During that 2 years, I had a few friends pop over. They saw the K8 model sitting on my kitchen bench. They drank the water. They tried the water. They gave it to their pets. I knew nothing about selling. I'm not a salesperson, so I don't do it. Well, I suppose we're all salespeople when it comes to it, really.
Well, if you've got a passion for something and you tell someone about it, you have an energy, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose
That's
so.
what it is.
Yeah,
And it worked for you, so
yeah.
you're believable, aren't you?
And so I had friends come over and they said, "Well, how do we buy one of these? We want one." Oh, I don't have a clue. Hang on a minute. What did I do? Oh, that's right. I bought it direct from the manufacturer. I still have the details here. All right. So I had to make some phone calls and help them purchase theirs. And they said, "Look, you should download all this paperwork and blah, 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 get to know it, read it and all that." So I did. And so within the first, I don't know, 6, 8 months, people actually saw the change in me.
Mm.
Really good friends of mine for well over 20 years now, they saw what I had been aging and looked like, what my skin looked like, and all the rest of it. And even last Christmas Day, just gone, they said, "Well, you're so much healthier today than you were 7 years ago. You look like you were 70 plus.
Mm.
At least now you look like you're 50 plus." And so,
Yep.
and so, not only does that scientific research talk about, um, uh, living healthier, happier, and free, it also talks about how to do it. It talks about longevity, and if there's such a real thing as anti-aging, it's happening to me.
Mm.
And people see that. People that have known me for
Well, you
many.
know what? I think there are a number of concepts here that we're talking about. So it's not just what you're putting in your body, the water and your nutrition, but it's also having a goal in life. Because even Einstein, all those years ago, recognized that if you want a happy life, tie it to a goal, is what he said. That was one of his quotes. So when you've got a goal, you have something to get up out of bed for and live for, you know. And a lot of people reach retirement age, and I'm talking like, in their 60s, and they're thinking, I'm past my use by date. But
Yeah.
no, this is the next chapter of your life. Find a goal and get invested in it, and then you will have this renewed energy and a purpose. And that's what people lack as well. They don't have a purpose, and a lot of people don't have the right purpose because they haven't actually looked within and followed their heart.
Kristine, I 100% agree. You are correct. What a great analysis there, because I was busily doing my conservation land management and doing some teaching the students, getting them through their PhDs and things like that. I had this skin condition, yeah, no big deal. Just get it dealt with every 3 months. When in that December 18, 2018, when told, wow, this could be a real problem, you might get 2 years, right? When that finally hits you, you have had your goals, dreams, all the hope of your future robbed.
Dashed. against the rocks, gone,
gone. Yeah. And listen,
shipwrecked.
that, well, you said the word dash. It's dashed, all right. And the interesting part of the dash is when we're born. Now, viewers, please recognize this. When we're born alkaline. When we die acidic. What happens in between is the dash. From
Yeah.
from your birth date to your end date is the dash in between.
And do you know also, when you're born, you are 75% water. And when you die, you're something like 50 or 45% water.
Correct.
And this is a problem because people are not hydrated correctly. And I don't think that, well, actually, as you age, obviously you get all these problems. And people think, oh, yeah, I'm getting old. I've got aches and pains. It's a normal thing. No, it's not. I'm 70, right? And I have got more energy than a lot of 20-year-olds, right? And I can still sprint along the beach. And, you know, I don't have any health problems. And so it's possible to live that life if you give your body the right circumstances.
So that's my message to people.
Yeah, that's our message now,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's our message that it is possible. There is hope. And you don't have to believe the stereotypes. I'm getting old, I got to have these problems. No, you don't. You give your body the right circumstances and it won't have those problems. And this is the problem with the statistics. They're on the incline in spite of all the health services and information out there, because people are not getting the right information and they're not taught how to really apply it in their life.
I can actually, I just thought of something that for your viewers that have stuck with us so far, right? I've spent a lot of time throughout my life taking supplementation, not knowing that, you know, not knowing anything about the properties of water, the correct water to drink or anything like that, right? So I was just taking supplements because I was told it's good to take your men's health supplement. I was told to take this or that, right? And so I thought I was doing the right thing. And it wasn't until I did a lot of research on water that I realized I could improve my supplement uptake, right? Now, I only rarely take a supplement nowadays. However, one of the very important things about hydrogen-rich water, and it's got to be rich in hydrogen, molecular hydrogen, active hydrogen, living molecules. And so that research that I was doing led me to understand. Now, we've heard about the law of gravity and the law of this and the law of that. Well, there's another law that a lot of people have never heard about. It's called the law of thermodynamics. That law is to do with magnetic energy fields, such as the Earth's magnetic field, and also electrical energy fields, such as lightning strike on land or water.
Right, yeah.
And what happens during the restructuring process, once the water has gone through the magnetic field or the water has gone through an electrical process such as lightning strike. And I now understand that law to a high degree. I'm going to write another ebook on that. I've got one in publication at the moment. We'll split the editor at the moment on the water and hydrogen. But then I'll write another one to do with the law of thermodynamics and the importance of that. But for those of you who are taking supplements, and let's say you spend $100 on supplements, then you'd like to make use of $100 worth of that supplement, making it assist you and your body on a cellular level.
Because most of those supplements do not work.
Well, most of them
very well.
And Dr. Peter's research, Dr. Peter Akeru's research, actually showed us why it doesn't work. And you mentioned it before with the additional thickening of that protective layer around the cell. It's got a lot to do with it as well. And so I came up with a visual demonstration that when I'm speaking to clinical nutritionists, clinical dietitians, Um, I'm talking about diet and well-being and how to have the ability of uptake of up to 100% of the product, rather than a
Partial.
expulsion or elimination of up to 100% of that product. And so,
do you know that there are certain products on the market that are actually detrimental to people's health?
there are, and part of the research was started with Dr. Peter's team because of supplementation companies that have done their research for their product. People were overdosing on their products or not benefiting from their products, and they wanted to know why. So he discovered why, and I thought, well, how am I going to present a visual presentation to someone? And I'm happy to share it with you, because I shared it with a couple of other nutritionists just recently, and they went, oh. And the comment was, so I've been flushing $85 to $90
down the toilet.
down the toilet, and I'm just sitting there going,
Yep.
It finally sunk in. They finally got it.
Yep.
And I'm happy to share that with your viewers, because it's right over there and I can just do it any time of the day.
Yeah, not now. I mean, look, I'm going to put your contact details in the description so that people can actually get in touch with you if
That'd be
they
great.
want to. And I'm sure there will be people who will do that.
So my purpose from 2019 onwards was to learn more. And when my own friends who purchased their product because they really liked the product, they like the idea of not only the drinking water but also their beauty regime, because most of my friends, it was their wives that wanted it, and mostly because of what they can do with the beauty waters and stuff. They don't have to buy all these expensive makeup removers, putting alcohol products on their skin or that sort of thing.
Do you know what? I don't like most of those products, skin products. Mostly I just put plant juices on my skin because, and just use soap and water to clean my skin. I don't necessarily spend a lot of time with beauty products, because it's a lot of a waste of money, and I do not use makeup because there are nanoparticles in these products, and that's of concern as well. So they get absorbed into your body. But people don't realize all the things they're putting on their skin and in their body. People don't understand how that affects them. And that's a worry, we need to, and that's why I do these podcasts, because I want people to be well. And, if you put the right water and the right oils into your body will work so much better.
100%.
And then on top of that, you want your fresh, vitamin C's and other, the water-based vitamins, because you need to renew them every day. And so if people, it's really quite simple. It's not complicated. It's not rocket science, really. I mean, what we talked about was a little bit rocket science to some people, but the application of it and the strategies that you and I want to give to people are very simple.
And aren't we so grateful that the rocket scientists, so to speak, they've already done all their research and development.
Yep.
And for 50 years, the product has been on the market, serving millions of families worldwide. And now you're hearing it for the first time if you're on this call and never heard of it.
That's right. And the oil product that I'm talking about has been around for 20 years. And so the research has been done. There's scientific proof. It's credible, and people don't know about it. And people want to go off on some new fandangle thing or buy a cheaper product because, this one's expensive or something. Well, how dumb is that?
Well, I struggled. I'm going to share with you the struggle with pricing, okay? The struggle with pricing is this. For me, right? Not sure about you, Kristine, or your viewers, but for me, the struggle with pricing was, this is my life, which could end sooner than I ever expected.
Yeah.
I have already done this, and this over the past few years. It's already cost me that much money.
Mm-hmm.
Buying this product now, I researched the company, I did the research and all that. It's a certified medical device in Japan.
Mm.
It's built to last.
Yeah.
It doesn't come with a 12-month guarantee at all. Not at all.
Mm.
It comes with a 5-year all parts and labour. And I haven't had to send mine back. I've had it more than 5 years. I've had it 7 years. It's the 7th year now.
And
So
it's still working.
yeah, and I keep it clean, and voila, it works.
Yeah.
So look, all those, and to be a medical device in Japan, it has to go through 12 years of scientific rigor and research. 12
Wow.
years in Japan, not 7 like in Australia,
Wow. Yeah.
but 12 years.
Yeah.
And for 12 years, over 6,400 medical doctors, scientists, and researchers had to review it. That's powerful.
It is powerful.
So it was a no-brainer for me to spend $7,000 on that product and 3.5 or something on the other product. I was spending that every year at least anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Well, see, but this is where people get it wrong and they go, oh, that's a lot of money. I don't know if I can afford that. But hang on a second. If you get unwell, what are you going to spend on your unwellness?
Well, I couldn't do my job for 3 to 6 months.
Exactly. That's so that it's not just the monetary, like the money that you're outlaying. It's the cost to your life, and the cost to your life was your income, as well as your quality of life.
Yeah.
So people don't think of those kind of costs, and if you can prevent going down the path of unwellness, wouldn't you do it? With a credible product,
yeah,
a credible product.
I had hope, then I had faith. I had hope that there's going to be hope.
And then you had evidence.
Then I had faith in the product.
Mm.
Then I purchased the product and my faith became trust.
Yeah.
And with that trust, later in 2019 and early 2020, I then chose to educate myself on more on the products and more on the companies purchasing those products for the general public. Because you do buy direct from the manufacturer. You don't buy through me. I don't handle anything. I just refer you to the company.
Right.
And help you place the order if you like. No trouble at all. And most people pay by card or internet banking. They can do it on their phone. They just need the company's bank details. So, I help them with that. Tick a box on the order form, sign it. That's it. Send it in. Done. You'll get your products within a week.
Yeah.
And they've been doing that for 50 years. So, yeah, I've had full trust in the product and what the products produce. And so one of my very first retail customers, so to speak, was a lady. It's a very short story. Was a lady that her car was parked next to mine down the shopping centre. I noticed when I went back to mine, she was missing a wheel nut. And I went, oh, I wonder if the others are loose. Well, I didn't touch her car, but I went and hopped in mine and I got my notepad and started writing a note. And then as I'm in there, I noticed through my peripheral vision, she hopped in her car. So I went, oh, hello. And I tore off my page and I walked around. I said, look, I was just writing you a note. She goes, oh, someone smashed in my car. I went, no, but you're missing a wheel nut. She goes, what? Step out of the way. So she hopped out, had a look. Oh, look at that. She said, I'll get Bob Jane to sort that out. They're right next to where I work. I went, oh. And I looked at her uniform and she had her company brand on her shirt. I said, oh, do you work there? She goes, I own it. I went, oh. I said, well, look, I'd love to try something out with you and your staff, if that's okay. My company is now recommending these particular water products, and because you have a beauty salon and spa, you might be interested in some of this. And she looked me from head to toe, looked me up and down. Just everybody, picture this. I've just finished mowing my grass at home. I got a phone call from a friend to say, rush down the shop and buy me this product and I'll pick it up on my way home. So I did. I'm wearing thongs stubbies, old singlet, right? And I'm covered in grass, dirt, and grime. And this lady looks me up and down and goes, "Really?" I go, "Please don't be so judgmental right now. You can see I've just mowed my grass. I'm doing, running a chore. I'm running an errand for a friend." And she goes, "All right, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, don't be late." I was there at 10:15. Her husband was there. Her staff were there. They bought 6 or 8 products that day, or a day over the next week,
Yeah.
And I had to learn how to do that for them. Look, they went on to, with their clientele, to sell many more products, all right? Their wellness regime down there took a whole new turn, a whole new focus. Kristine, you mentioned putting plant moistures, right, like aloe vera, that sort of thing. She was able to make up the most beautiful beauty spritz spray using a little bit of aloe vera and a beauty water product from this, at the correct pH for your skin, from this machine.
Sure.
She sold lots of it. It was so wonderful. She even brought some around for me to try, and I tested it, and it was great.
Yeah.
And so she really changed a lot of people's lives. And she was one of my first real retail customers, right? I had 3 friends buy, and then she did.
Yeah.
And then I had to help her with all the other customers and they wanted to place their orders because they tried all the products there at her wellness center.
Yeah.
And they
loved it.
And they did. They loved it. And so I used to do product demonstrations down there for them, explanations, show them the science if they needed it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The point I'm making, though, is we can get very deep into the science, and we can basically vomit all that education over people. We got 2 ears and 2 eyes for a reason. We only got 1 mouth, so shut the mouth, listen, and learn from the people we're speaking to. They'll share with us their story, what they're looking for.
Yeah, and so that we can help them then.
So that we can help them. And so I do listen to what people have to say.
Yeah. I
do watch very carefully what to do about helping them. And so there were many of her customers came to my home for further demonstrations, learn about this, learn about that. And they went on to place orders on behalf of their family and friends, which is great. If I can help one person help 100, fantastic. If I can help one person, fantastic. Right? And I'd love to help your audience as well. And I'd love to help.
And that is exactly why I wanted to interview you. And I really, really thank you for coming in today, Mark, and spending this time here and explaining all about water.
Hey, it's really simple. It's really simple. You just buy it and you drink it.
And it does its magic all on its own.
Yep. A friend of mine has her own website called Miracles with Water, and it's the same water that she uses. My home is chemical free. My tiles, the machine makes a floor cleaner. The machine makes a spray and wipe for your bench tops. The machine makes your glass cleaner. It makes your sanitizer for your bathroom, mold remover for your shower and bathtub. It makes all the beauty product water for all your natural skincare. It makes a water that removes your oil-based, your permanent mascara and all that. It takes that off. It's fantastic. And when we have a
multi-purpose water.
Absolutely, there's water for everything, and who would have known? And so I do encourage you to reach out to Kristine and myself, and we'll be happy to share some knowledge with you. I've invented some very simple visual demonstrations. I can simply demonstrate the antioxidant power of the hydrogen as a water visual demonstration for you. I've done the same with supplementation uptake. I've done the same with cellular detox. Boy, they're very powerful. And those 3 alone should be enough for every one of your viewers, Kristine, to go, oh, maybe there's something really valuable here. And there is. They're
Well, the
really,
reason
really,
that's why I've interviewed you, because I know for a fact that this water is, the real deal.
and I'm still
But
here. That's the
and
best.
you're still here. You're living proof. That's right. And I'm living proof of how I've lived my life. And between you and I think we're pretty good examples for people to aspire to a better health in the future. Okay, I'm going to have to wind up our interview now because I have other appointments today, and this is a long interview. However, it's so full of really good information, and I hope our viewers have gained some insights. Thank you very much for coming on my show, Mark, and we may do a follow-up interview down the track. But people will be able to get in touch with you because I'll put your contact details in the description for this video on my YouTube channel. Thank you very much again.
Kristine, it's been my pleasure, and not knowing how long, maybe I did speak a bit too long. Look, any questions, reach out, and yeah, happy to answer them. Thank you so much, and yeah, thank you for inviting me on here. Love it.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.